A flicker of vulnerability played across his usually assured demeanor, exposing the worry in his stormy eyes. Because there's still so much to uncover. Raelynn swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his gaze. I need to know what's behind all of this, she replied, her voice laced with both defiance and fear. The truth about my mentor, the one who lured me here with promises of mentorship. What if the art world isn't as pure as I thought? As they moved further away from the gathering's chaos, the lush foliage of the island's garden enclosed them, vibrant splashes of color among the darkness of the evening. They paused by a towering hibiscus, its petals glowing in the moonlight, as Braxton stepped closer, brushing his fingers against her arm. I understand more than you think, he murmured, his voice low and intense. You don't need to defend your fears to me. Then why won't you share yours? She countered, the tension brimming in the air between them. She took a shaky breath, glancing up at him. What do you fear? A moment passed, thick with unspoken words. Braxton's jaw tightened, and for the first time she saw a chink in his armor. I fear losing control, he finally confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. Everything I do is to protect those I care about, and right now, that's you. Raelynn felt heat bloom in her chest, both thrilling and terrifying. You care about me? Of course, I do, he said, the intensity in his eyes breaking through his usual reserve. But you need to understand, every choice I make has ramifications beyond just the here and now. Your mentor, he may not be who you think he is. Her heart raced, the world around her narrowing down to the echo of Braxton's words. What do you mean? It's not just about art, he insisted, his voice suddenly edged with urgency. There are ties, connections to things better left unexplored, criminals who wear the mask of civility. The thought struck her like a punch, sending a wave of nausea through her. You can't be serious. He's done so much for me. He believed in my talent when no one else did. Braxton sighed, stepping closer, lowering his voice. Belief can be a method as much as it is a virtue. Sometimes it's bait to pull you in. Around them, the scents of the garden intensified, a heady mixture of jasmine and earth, mingled with the salt water clinging to the horizon. She placed a hand against the rough bark of the hibiscus tree, grounding herself. I thought I was stepping into a world of beauty, but it feels tainted now. There are differences between what you wanted it to be and what it truly is, he replied thoughtfully, glancing back towards the fading lights of the gala. We might need to confront your mentor sooner than later, but there are also things. His voice trailed off, and for a fleeting instant, Raelynn noticed the tension in his posture, the way his eyes darkened. What things? She pressed, searching his gaze for answers. He hesitated, his brow furrowing as if weighing the consequences of his next words. There are dangerous people who will try to keep you from learning the truth, from stepping too far into the light. An ominous thrill coursed through her. You're scaring me. I'm protecting you, he countered softly, his hand finding hers, anchoring her resolve. You deserve to see the world with clear eyes, Raelynn, but only if you're willing to fight for it. The firm grasp of his hand ignited a fire in her that buzzed through her veins. Then I'll stand and fight, as long as I'm not facing it alone. Their eyes locked, an unspoken promise solidifying the chaotic energy swirling around them. It was terrifying, yet exhilarating. An intense desire mingled with an unshakable bond, built on truths, yet unveiled. Together, he said, his voice steady and resolute. Together, she echoed, feeling both the thrill of the upcoming confrontation and the weight of her possible betrayal. As they lingered in the embrace of tension and uncertainty, she caught the hint of warmth curling between them, something whispering of potential futures, herself tinged in the brightness of passion and peril. Scene 74. Confrontation at dawn. Raelynn Barrett stood on the edge of the ocean's calm embrace, the water lapping gently at her feet, a stark contrast to the tumult brewing within her. The sun's first rays painted the sky in hues of pink and gold, illuminating the stark lines of the towering cliffs that framed the exclusive island. Each wave whispered secrets. The salty breeze tugged at her hair, a reminder of the sweet yet bitter freedom she longed to claim. She could see her mentor, Ava Sinclair, a formidable figure against the backdrop of the emerging day, pacing along the shoreline ahead. Ava appeared to be lost in thought, her expression a mixture of determination and guarded fear. Raelynn clenched her fists, pulling the fabric of her linen dress taut around her as she gathered her composure. Today she would demand answers. Ava! Raylan's voice cut through the dawn's silence, sharp and insistent. The sound seemed to hang in the air, amplifying her urgency as it drifted over the crashing waves. Ava turned, her striking features softening for a moment, yet the tension in her shoulders remained. Raelynn, she said, her tone measured, as if she were weighing her words like precious cargo. What brings you here at this hour? I've come for the truth, Raelynn asserted, stepping closer, the cool water sending shivers up her spine as it splashed against her calves. I need to know why you've kept secrets from me, especially about my family. Ava's jaw tightened, her mask of control slipping for the briefest of moments, revealing a vulnerability that tugged at Raylan's heart. You don't know what you're asking, she replied, her gaze darting towards the horizon, as if to evade Raylan's fierce intensity. Some truths can shatter. Is this about protecting me or protecting yourself? Raelynn challenged, her voice laced with a tremor of fearlessness. She took another step forward, the sun rising higher, casting long shadows between them. All these years, I've trusted you to guide me. But did that trust mean anything if you don't trust me with the truth? Ava's breath caught in her throat, her composure seeming to fray at the edges. You don't understand the layers involved. Your heritage, my past, is intertwined like a tapestry. Revealing one thread could unravel everything. Then let it unravel. Raylan's heart raced, each word charged with the weight of desperation. I need to confront my own legacy. I won't be a pawn in this hidden game anymore. A moment of silence stretched between them, filled only by distant gulls and the rhythmic tide. Ava stepped closer, her expression softening as she took a measured breath. You resemble your mother more than you realize. The way you fight for truth often leads to peril. There was a high-stakes vulnerability embedded in her gaze, a flicker of fear that made Raelynn pause. You're scared for me? Raelynn asked, her voice dropping an octave. Or are you afraid of what I might discover? The answers you seek are complicated, Ava said, her tone weary yet edged with resolve. Your mother made choices to protect you, choices I helped guide her in. Unraveling it could hurt not just you, but those you care for. Braxton deserves to know the whole story, Raelynn insisted, crossing her arms against the cool morning air, her heart aching for the man whose intentions she could no longer decipher. And I won't lose him because of shadows that don't belong to me. Ava's expression shifted, a realization dawning. This isn't just about the past, is it? This is about your future and Braxton's place in it. Exactly, Raelynn replied, her frustration spilling over into jubilant determination. I won't let my past dictate my future. Not anymore. Ava took a cautious step back as if Raylan's fierce declaration startled her. You're strong, Raelynn, but strength without wisdom can be reckless. Please be careful. There are more players in this game than just you and me. Frustration simmered within Raelynn, but she raised her chin defiantly. I've already been careful long enough. It's time to take action. As the tide surged closer, a realization hung heavily in the air. The sun was now fully risen, but mysteries clouded the day ahead, dark and turbulent. Make your choices wisely, Raelynn, Ava said, the warning threaded with concern. The consequences can be dire. I'll take my chances, Raelynn vowed, determination flickering in her eyes. As she turned to leave, a wave crashed against the shore, echoing the tumult in her heart. She could feel the weight of everything shifting, setting the stage for the battles yet to come. With one final glance over her shoulder, she declared, I refuse to be a hostage to my own history. The breath she took tasted like the impending storm, both exhilarating and terrifying. Scene 75. Fateful Decisions. Raelynn Barrett stood in the expansive kitchen, sunlight streaming through the large bay windows. The warm, golden light illuminated the sleek marble countertops and accentuated the rich walnut cabinetry. She meticulously arranged a colorful array of fruits, their vibrant hues contrasting against the polished surface. Apples, oranges, and deep purple plums lay before her, begging for attention. Yet her hands moved mechanically, each slice and placement carrying the weight of unvoiced turmoil. Across the kitchen, Braxton Vale leaned casually against the doorframe, his arms crossed, his dark eyes studying her with an intensity that sent shivers down Raylan's spine. He had that one that seemed to pierce through her crafted facade, exposing the vulnerability lying just beneath the surface. "Raelynn," he began, his voice low and grounded, "you've been avoiding me." She didn't turn to meet his gaze, focusing instead on aligning the fruit bowls, her jaw tense. "I've been busy, Braxton. The gala is in less than a week." "Busy or distracted?" he pressed, pushing off the doorframe to step closer. The faint scent of his cologne woodsy and spicy wrapped around her as he approached. "You think I'm hiding from you?" she replied, forcing a lightness into her tone that felt painfully untrue. The air thickened with tension, each word strained, as layers of unspoken arguments and unresolved emotions hung invisibly between them. "Aren't you?" he countered, his tone sharper now, the playful undertones slipping away. "I know you've been meeting with anyone but me. What are you plotting, Raelynn?" She turned then, her eyes locking onto his, a flicker of defiance igniting in her chest. "This isn't about me plotting anything," Raelynn snapped, her voice suddenly louder than intended. "It's about choices, your choices, my choices. Do you even see that?" Braxton's expression shifted, disappointment mingling with the trace of anger etched across his features. "It's always about choices with you, but do you ever consider the consequences?" Raelynn clenched her jaw, feeling every impulse of her heart. The raw awareness of their fracture made her skin prickle. "We all live with consequences, Braxton," she replied, her voice quieter now, rolling over the distance she had tried to create. "But you don't have a monopoly on them. You don't get to decide what I can handle." He stepped closer, the distance between them evaporating. "And yet, here we are. You know the truth, Raelynn," he murmured, his voice softening but edged with an urgency that made her pulse quicken. "About your family, about what we're up against." Raelynn turned her back to him, the weight of his implications suffocating. "They're not here," she whispered, her fingers trailing over the smooth surface of the countertop. "Not anymore. Maybe we should leave the past in the past." But even as she said it, doubts crept around her heart, wrapping around each chamber like vines. Braxton advanced until he stood directly behind her, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating off his body. "You can't shove it down, pretending it doesn't exist. That's not how this works." "Maybe you're wrong," she challenged softly, keeping her back turned, squeezing her eyes shut as she fought the pull toward him. "Maybe I can." His breath caught, and she could feel the tension radiating off him like heat. "Running won't help you either," he said, the firmness in his tones swiftly unraveling into something softer, more fragile. "You feel that pull, don't you? The allure of the chaos?" Raelynn inhaled deeply, grappling with her fraying resolve. She turned to face him, her heart racing. "What do you want from me? Every time I think I've got it figured out, you come charging back in with your secrets, your shadows." "Raelynn," he said, taking her hand, grounding her with the mere brush of his skin against hers. "I want you. That's the truth. If you let the shadows win, we're both lost." In that moment, she could see deep into his eyes there, swirling in the depths, was desire tinged with desperation. Raelynn swallowed hard, feeling the gravity of the truth bearing down upon them both. With uncertainty woven into her very being, their worlds collided, and she knew she stood on the precipice of a choice that could change everything. "And if I choose you," she whispered, the wavering courage threatening to crack. "Then we fight together," he said, his voice steady, wrapping around her like a warm embrace. "And I promise, whatever it takes to light the way, we'll face it." The sunlight flickered through the windows, casting a halo-like glow around them, blurring the line between fear and hope. With the weight of fate tipping precariously on the edge, Raelynn felt the heavy duty of choice settle in her chest, knowing that whatever she decided, the storm ahead would be anything but mundane. Scene 76, Endangered Hearts. The evening sky bled into shades of orange and deep purple as the sun sank behind the verdant hills of the exclusive island. The vast ocean mirrored the tumultuous atmosphere, waves crashing against the rocky shore with insistent fervor. Raelynn Barrett stood near the sprawling terrace, her gaze anchored to the horizon, attempting to fathom the storm both outside and within. "Are we really prepared for what's coming?" Braxton Vale's voice, rich and steady, sliced through the gathering tension. He emerged from the shadows of the lavishly adorned lounge, his presence commanding, even in daylight's fading hue. Raelynn turned, her brow knitted tightly. Prepared? I don't think there is such a thing anymore. She crossed her arms, feeling more vulnerable than ever amidst the deceit swirling around them like a tempest. Braxton stepped closer, the scent of his cologne pine and sandalwood piercing through the salty air, drawing her in. She consumed the very essence of him, an intoxicating blend of strength and certainty that both exhilarated and terrified her. This is about more than just us, Raelynn. It's about protecting your future. It's about protecting you. The weather seemed to conspire with their conversation as thick clouds rolled in, casting a shadow over the terrace. Rain began to patter lightly on the wooden deck, each droplet a reminder of the brewing chaos. Raelynn felt the impending storm echo her own inner turmoil, memories of past mistakes surfacing like ghosts with sharpened claws. What future? She challenged, raising her chin defiantly. One riddled with betrayals, secrets, where every whisper could bring everything crashing down? Braxton's expression darkened, the flickering shadows emphasizing the sharp angles of his careworn face. A future worth fighting for. We've come too far to let fear dictate our choices. He reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. The warmth of his palm against hers sent a vibrancy through her that felt almost electric. "Do you know what I fear the most?" she asked, biting the inside of her cheek, her voice tremulous yet soft beneath the raucous sounds of nature around them. Braxton leaned in, the world beyond them dissolving. "Tell me," he urged, his breath ghosting over her skin like a gentle caress. "I fear the truth," she whispered, her eyes glassy with unshed tears. "What happens when my past catches up to me? What if it takes you in the process?" He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear and gave a slow, deliberate shake of his head. "Then we'll face it together." The sincerity in his voice crumbled the walls she had meticulously built. The storm intensified, rain cascading down, the droplets kissing their faces as if the heavens themselves wept for them. In that moment of impending urgency, Raelynn made a decision. "Together?" she echoed, her heart hammering like the thunder above. Braxton took a half step closer, his eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that ignited a spark in her chest. "You are not alone, Raelynn. I won't let you carry your burden alone." As the words settled in the space between them, the air swirled thick with tension, desire coiling like a live wire. Time seemed to suspend. The chaos beyond blurred into a soft murmur, illuminated by the swirling passion unfurling between their bodies. Raelynn could feel the heartbeats of the island itself urging her to embrace the inevitable. Before she could think, she stepped into him, the warmth of his body eclipsing her cold fears. Their lips met in a fervent collision, a kiss marked by an urgency that tasted of both desperation and desire. Shockwaves of emotion cascaded through her, erasing the chaotic world around them, transforming the rain from a threat to a soothing balm. The kiss deepened, igniting an inferno that spread rapidly, as if their souls were peeling away years of doubt and regret. She melted into him, the rain mingling with the sweat of the moment, their breaths synchronized in a crescendo of passion. Each second stretched into eternity, the blooming intimacy drowning the anxiety that had threatened to consume them. When they finally broke apart, their foreheads pressed together, both panting against the coolness of the evening air. "Whatever happens next," Braxton murmured, his voice husky and low, "we'll face it. Together." Raelynn could only nod, her heart a wild drummer in her chest, for in that tempest, she had found something beautiful amidst the chaos, a reason to fight, to love, and to believe. And as the rain poured down around them, she shivered, but this time it was not from fear. "Together," she echoed, the conviction in her voice matching the pulse of the storm. Scene 77. The past revealed. The evening sun dipped low over the luminous waters surrounding the island, casting a warm, golden hue across the meticulously manicured terrace. The air was tinged with salt and the faint scent of jasmine, but beneath that beauty lingered the heavy pall of unspoken words hanging between Raelynn and Braxton. They stood close, but not touching, the gap between them palpable, a chasm filled with secrets. Raelynn took a deep breath, summoning the courage that seemed to falter at the most trying moments. "Braxton," she began, her voice steady yet soft, cutting through the silence like a knife through glass. There's something you need to know. Braxton's dark eyes flickered with concern, vulnerability breaking through his usual charisma. He stepped closer, the space between them narrowing. You can tell me anything. The wind teased Raylan's curls, whispering secrets of its own, as she felt the weight of her family's legacy pressing down on her. She swallowed hard, feeling the remnants of childhood fears resurface. My family isn't what it seems. I grew up in chaos, Braxton, my mother. She loved fiercely, and it was often misguided. Pausing, she scanned the horizon, where the sun's reflection danced on the waves like a memory she couldn't quite grasp. Her relationships, they were often tumultuous. I watched as her dreams crumbled, one love affair after another. I know about your mother, Braxton said, his tone careful. But you aren't her. You're stronger than she ever was. Raelynn turned to him, surprised by the intensity of his gaze. You think so? She whispered, the trepidation barely masked. She was all too aware of the turmoil within her that matched the waves' erratic dance against the shore. Absolutely. Braxton closed the distance further, his hand brushing against hers. Just the slightest touch, but it sent a ripple of warmth through her. Your ambition, your strength, it's admirable, but you can't keep hiding from your past. His words echoed in the heavy air, laden with the tension of honesty. As she looked into his sincere eyes, she felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. There's more. My father was no better. He was a ghost present physically, absent emotionally. I've spent my entire life trying not to repeat their mistakes, but love, it terrifies me. Braxton's brow furrowed in understanding. Love makes us vulnerable. But isn't that the point? To share your fears, your flaws? Despite herself, Raelynn laughed softly, a sound like the tinkling of crystal chimes, dramatic relief lingering just below the surface. I never thought love could be an exchange of vulnerabilities. For me, it's like a time bomb tick, tick, tick until it explodes. Then let me help you defuse it. His expression turned serious, the weight of his offer settling between them. Whatever is happening with you, it doesn't have to be a secret. Not with me. The sincerity in his voice washed over her like a tidal wave. She indulged in a moment of quiet, letting his words sink in. Would it truly be possible for someone to see all her flaws and still embrace her tightly? Just as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, illuminating the sky in a riot of purples and reds, she stepped forward, craving the warmth of his regard. Everything I fear is rooted in my blood, she confessed, her voice trembling. I can't let my fears dictate my future. Braxton reached out, wrapping his fingers around hers with a gentle but firm assurance. Then let's reshape your future together, Raelynn. You are not your past. The emotional gravity of his words pressed down on them as the dusk deepened into evening, their surroundings shifting from a vibrant landscape into a soft, shadowy world. Raelynn could feel the distance between them collapse, an involuntary magnetism pulling them closer. I want to trust you, she murmured, reaching up to touch his jaw, her fingertips barely brushing the surface, a tentative connection brimming with promise. Their breaths mingled in the twilight as they hovered at the edge of something boundless. Then trust me to hold your hand as we uncover every shadow together, he murmured back, his voice low and steady. You are not alone. Raelynn closed her eyes for a brief moment, welcoming the peace that settled like a warm blanket around her, and opened them to find Braxton's gaze determined yet warm, reflecting the kind of passionate determination she desperately needed. With every shared heartbeat, she felt herself leaning into him, sensing that perhaps, just perhaps, she could start anew. As he wrapped her in his protective embrace, Raelynn realized that maybe healing wouldn't be the fight she had always imagined. Instead, it could feel like coming home. Scene 78, Secrets Within Secrets. The sun hung low in the cerulean sky, casting a warm, golden hue across the manicured lawns of Whitcastle Island. The sound of waves gently lapping against the shoreline harmonized with the distant laughter of affluent guests enjoying an evening gala. Raelynn Barrett stood at the edge of an ornate terrace, the scent of lavender from nearby blooms mingling with the salt of the sea air. Yet, despite the beauty surrounding her, a growing unease twisted in her stomach like a coiled serpent. Braxton Vale's striking silhouette cut through the crowd, confidence radiating from him as he approached, the soft rustle of his tailored suit contrasting against the upbeat chatter of a nearby group discussing the latest auction. His intense gaze settled on Raelynn, awareness sparking between them as if the air thickened around her figure. "Raelynn," he greeted, his voice a deep murmur that sent both warmth and dread skirting up her spine. "We need to talk." "Talk or confront?" she retorted, crossing her arms, feeling the familiar walls rise around her. "I know how fondly you've been speaking of Wolfgang Eldridge to the shareholders." Braxton's jaw tightened, his expression morphing from stoic to visibly annoyed. "You think I'm hiding something from you? This isn't just about profit margins. He's gotten too close." "Too close?" Raelynn laughed, a brittle sound that echoed against the Italian marble columns. "You mean to your plans? Or to us? You've said nothing of your connection to him. What's the deeper truth, Braxton?" As she spoke, a hush fell over their surroundings, guests shifting uncomfortably, caught between the tension of the escalating argument and their own evening revelries. The laughter around them faded, replaced by the intensity of their clashing gazes. "They didn't tell you, did they?" Braxton asked, lowering his voice, frustration etched into his features. The shadows of the terrace seemed to deepen, mirroring the growing chasm between them. "Wolfgang's been using your past to keep leverage over me. If I break ties now, everything you've built," Raelynn interrupted, heat rising to her cheeks. "It always comes back to that. What about me? What about us?" Her heart raced, raw emotion landing heavy in her chest. "Stop," he said, exasperation bursting forth. "You think I'm not concerned for you? There are shades to this world we're barely scratching the surface of. We're dealing with dangerous people, Raelynn." A palpable silence fell again as she absorbed his words, uncertainty battling within her. As much as she wanted to hate him for keeping secrets, a pulse of vulnerability simmered beneath the surface. She stepped closer, defiance fading into a flicker of hurt. "Then why not tell me? I can handle the dark," she said softly. His guard dropped slightly, revealing a raw, yearning complexity. "Can you?" Braxton countered, concern flickering in his deep-set eyes. "Sometimes, knowing the truth isn't liberating. It can be a burden." She touched his arm, her fingers trembling against the fabric of his sleeve. "Then share it, if we're going to face this." A light-hearted voice suddenly interrupted, a mutual friend, Maya, a bubbly, ever-optimistic woman bouncing toward them. "Hey, you two look like you're about to wrestle for charity." Maya grinned, oblivious to the weight heavy in the air. "Come on, you have to see the art showcase inside. It's like stepping into a rainbow." As she spoke, she glanced back and forth between the two, catching the tense beat between Raelynn and Braxton. Laughter sparkled, a light-hearted distraction, but both seemed too lost in their turmoil to respond as Maya continued to drag them into the bustling crowd. "Art can be revealing, you know," she chirped, a teasing lilt to her voice. "But you two? You're each other's masterpiece." Braxton's smirk reemerged, but Raelynn sensed the tension still haunted him. He took a step back, acknowledging Maya's intrusion yet still holding Raylan's gaze tightly. "We'll discuss this later, after we figure out how to handle Wolfgang," he promised, his earlier irritation giving way to a deeper vulnerability. Maya finally released a chuckle, eyes twinkling with mischief. "So, it's settled. Let's paint the town, shall we?" Her exuberance clashed with the gravity that hung around Raelynn and Braxton like an impending storm. "Right," Braxton murmured thoughtfully, turning to Raelynn once more, voice husky and intense as he dared to hope for a truce. "Together, then, we face this." As they drifted towards the vibrant heart of activity, Raelynn caught one last lingering touch on her hand, a promise lingering both sweet and dangerous in the whirl of newfound alliances, secrets, and possibilities still left in the dark. Scene 79. A reunion of sorts. The rhythm of waves crashing against the rocky shore whispered secrets as Braxton Vale navigated the dimly lit hallway of the sprawling estate, tension coiling around his shoulders like a heavy cloak. Each step echoed with the gravitas of his thoughts, enticing a storm to brew deep within. He was acutely aware that the island's charm belied its dangerous current. The air crackled with unspoken truths, repressed histories flickering like shadows at the corners of his mind. Outside, moonlight spilled into the hall, casting a surreal glow on ornate portraits of ancestors whose gazes felt all too knowing. Braxton's jaw clenched as he approached the drawing room, a place once filled with laughter and summer soirees, now hauntingly silent. He hesitated, palm resting against the door, feeling the wood's cool surface under his fingertips. He was about to step into a reunion, not just of old ties, but of the weight he had carried alone for too long. He took a deep breath, relishing the scent of aged whiskey mingling with the sea breeze, and pushed the door open. Inside, the room buzzed with a palpable energy. Faint whispers danced around, caught between old rivals and hidden alliances. He spotted her first, Raelynn Barrett, her profile illuminated by the shimmering light, intense focus painting her features. She was the embodiment of joy, wrapped in turmoil, an unstoppable force that he had admired from a distance. The way she lit up when discussing art could break hearts and mend souls. That same spark had ignited something profound within him. Across the room, Gabriel Sharp leaned against the mantelpiece, arms crossed, his brow taut with concern. "You think they'll show?" he asked, his voice low and purposeful. "They better," Raelynn replied, biting back a smile. Yet her eyes darted towards the clock, worry etched into her delicate frame. Braxton stepped into the fold, his presence thickening the atmosphere. "They will. It's a matter of allegiance." Both of them turned, and in that moment, a whirlwind of emotions surged. The weight of shared history, of past loyalties and betrayals, clung heavily around his neck. Raylan's eyes shimmered, deeper than the ocean itself, filled with questions. "Braxton," she breathed, and a shiver cascaded through him like the first drops of rain before a storm. "Raelynn." He stepped closer, his gaze flicking away, unwilling to fully succumb to the pull of that unquenchable desire. It was madness. He realized how close they had danced to the edge of something uncharted. Gabriel's fingers rapped impatiently against the mantel, breaking the silence. "Look, we don't have time to waste on pleasantries. If those old connections are still standing, we need them now." Braxton nodded, feeling the hard edges of duty slice through the haze of emotion. "I agree. This isn't just about our past. It's about survival." Suddenly the door swung open, a gust of wind announcing the arrival of two figures. Rhea and Malik, faces illuminated with urgency, entered as if conjured from the storm outside. "You heard?" Rhea began, her expression a blend of relief and apprehension. "They're regrouping. If we don't act fast, then it could be too late," Malik finished, his voice steady. The tension in the air thickened, the urgency now palpable. "Things have escalated," Rhea said, worry crinkling her brow. "Reports of a breach from the mainland are not just rumors anymore." Gabriel shot a look at Raelynn, tightening the circuit of alarm. "So they're back." "Back," Braxton repeated, curiosity laced with dread. "Who are we talking about?" "Those who'd tear us apart," Malik replied bluntly. "People you thought were gone." Raelynn inhaled sharply, eyes wide, the uncertainty robbing her of breath. "This isn't how I envisioned tonight. We're not just digging into old grievances." "We have to be strategic," Braxton asserted. The spark beneath his calm facade ignited fast. "We have to plan every move. Old alliances, new threats, and unfinished business. We need to hash it out. Or we'll be the ones caught in a game we never signed up for," Gabriel added, his voice steady as he looked around the group, each member of their fractured unity now vital. The stakes had risen, and as they gathered together, old loyalties and new tensions merging, the test of their bonds felt more daunting than ever. Rage brewed just beneath the surface. But in that moment, every heartbeat resonated with possibility. They were on the threshold of war, and betrayal lurked close, yet somehow intertwined within the diaphanous threads of hope, and revival. "Let's not waste any time, then. We reunite our forces," Braxton commanded, his voice rich with resolve. "We're stronger together, always." The weight of those words hung in the air, reverberating with the promise of uncharted passion and the echo of their imminent struggle. Scene 80. Fires of Betrayal. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting an amber glow over the lavish terrace of Braxton Vale's island estate. Raelynn Barrett stood, eyes scanning the intricate details of the gallery layout before her, an assortment of oils and mixed media she'd painstakingly arranged, each piece holding the weight of her aspirations and the silent echoes of her past. A faint sea breeze tugged playfully at her curls, yet a prism of chill threaded through her thoughts. "Raelynn, I could help you with this," called Alaric, her cheerful assistant, as he walked in, a stack of catalogs in his arms like a fortress guarding his optimism. His bright smile faltered upon her tense posture. "No, Alaric," Raelynn replied, forcing a soft smile. I just need a moment. The invitation for space slipped through her voice, evident but unresisting, as she turned her back to him, focusing on the vibrant hues of a particularly evocative abstract piece. Alaric set the catalogs on the glass table, the sound punctuating the heavy silence. You're doing great. I mean it. Everyone here adores your work. The sincerity in his voice made her heart flutter momentarily, but the compliment weighed against the brewing storm inside. It's just, I've lost sight of everything I should be focusing on. With a nod, Alaric tried to reestablish the playful banter they shared. Just remember, masterpieces come from chaos, right? You're basically a genius. He paused, lowering his voice conspiratorially. As long as you're not secretly plotting a heist on my romantic life, we'll be fine. She laughed lightly, but it didn't reach her eyes. An unsettling thought surfaced, the realization that betrayal could wear a familiar face like a well-loved mask. A pulse of anxiety quickened her breath as she recounted her discovery just hours ago, saw a familiar name linked to dark dealings she'd never dreamed were part of her universe. Raelynn paused, gathering her resolve. You ever wonder, Alaric, who we can truly trust here? He scratched his head. Trust? That's a slippery slope, Raelynn. Who do you think we can trust? She pressed, the question hanging in the air like the taste of bitter fruit. Alaric shifted, brow furrowing. Well, I'd say Braxton is solid. He's always been up front, and... Is he, though? The air thickened as she spoke Braxton's name, memories flooding her. Glances across crowded rooms, lips brushing in electrifying secrecy, the raw intensity of fire igniting underneath their shared laughter. She pushed through the recollections until they turned fleeting and disjointed, sending ripples through her heart. I just don't want to make a fool of myself again, she whispered, the confessional tone surprising even her. Alaric stared at her, concerned, ready to push further, but was interrupted by the loud clinking of fine glass beyond them. Janelle, one of the lead artists at the estate, burst upon the terrace like a summer storm, her tall silhouette draped in flowing fabric that caressed the mosaic floor. Raelynn, you won't believe what I just found out, she exclaimed, eyes sparkling with mischief. What? The urgency in her voice pulled Raelynn out of her spiral. Mark, the collector who praised your work, he's been linked to the same enterprise that's been targeting the gallery. Janelle's words landed like shards of glass, cutting through Raylan's fragile composure. Raelynn felt her stomach knot, an unexpected fury rising, a visceral need for retribution. Are you sure? She forced through clenched teeth, a pulse of betrayal igniting her resolve. Absolutely. I overheard him talking about another transaction. They're not just selling art, but laundering funds. All of it could come back to you, Raelynn. We need a plan, and fast. The burgeoning chaos ignited the space, and she felt the ground beneath her trembling like the taut string on a bow, ready to snap. Alaric and Janelle stood firmly beside her, their unwavering loyalty sparking something fierce within her. Raelynn? Braxton's deep voice cut through the tension as he appeared at the entrance, his frame tall, his expression inscrutable. It's worse than we thought, Raelynn replied, her determination igniting as she met his gaze. We have to find out who we can trust before it's too late. He moved closer, every step radiating an enigmatic energy that drew her in, yet she felt the walls of her heart hardening. Then, let's bring them to justice together. In that charged moment, Raelynn considered the fierce bond forged in mid-storm, drawing her closer to him, yet the shadows whispered reminders of danger. The fires of betrayal burned bright as she whispered back with conviction, together. Scene 81, the Art Gallery Inferno. The air inside the gallery was thick with the rich scent of turpentine and varnish, lingering around canvases draped in vibrant hues that spoke of passion, of longing, of delicate whispers in the night. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, illuminating dust motes that danced lazily, while shadows loomed at the edges, hinting at secrets buried beneath exquisite beauty. Raelynn Barrett, poised and confident, stood amidst the striking display, her heart thrumming as she rearranged a carefully curated piece, a bold abstract reminiscent of her chaotic emotions. But just as she stepped back to admire her work, a piercing shriek of sirens shattered the piece, making her jump. Alarm bells echoed through the gallery, and she squinted at Braxton Vale, who stood at the entrance, his handsome features etched with tension. He rushed toward her, a storm of raw energy, and she felt her breath hitch at the intensity in his dark eyes. "Braxton, what's happening?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. "There's been a fire in the storage room," he replied, breathless. "We have to evacuate everyone now." His urgency turned the air electric, and she nodded, adrenaline surging through her veins as she sprinted past him to warn the guests. Outside, the sun blazed brilliantly, a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding within. The air was suddenly filled with frenzied chatter as the elegantly dressed patrons spilled onto the manicured grass. "Is it contained?" one guest shouted, clutching her designer handbag like a lifeline. "Don't worry, the fire department is on the way," Raelynn announced, trying to inject calm into the panic enveloping the crowd. She darted to Braxton's side, where sparks flew through the open door of the gallery, flickering like harbingers of imminent doom. "We have to get in there." Braxton's voice was a low growl, fierce and possessive, as he locked gazes with her. "I'm not leaving you behind." "But what about the art?" Raelynn protested, torn between her passion for preservation and her growing concerns for their safety. "Forget the art," Braxton snapped, but the fire in his eyes shifted momentarily to softness as he took a step closer. "We need to save the people first." But Raylan's resolve stirred within her. They need to get these pieces out. They hold stories. The artists poured their souls into them. The heat wafting from the gallery clung to them ominously as the distant sirens wailed. In that moment, as chaos threatened to envelop them, the silence between them crackled with unspoken emotions, an allure that bound them together despite the inferno's chaos. "Then let's get to work," he said, his voice low and determined, but his hand lingered on her wrist, anchoring her in place for a heartbeat longer than necessary. "Together?" she asked, her heart hammering in her chest, unsure if it was inflated by fear or a deeper connection. "Always," he replied, and though they didn't utter the weight of the promise, it lingered in the air, potent. Rushing back into the gallery, they were met with the overwhelming rush of smoke that filled their lungs and threatened to choke them. The once illuminated space morphed into a nightmare of crackling flames and swirling shadows, casting strange, harrowing forms that danced wildly. "Over here!" Raelynn shouted, her voice hoarse as she directed a couple of patrons toward a safe exit. Braxton was quick to grab pieces of art, his muscular frame moving with purpose, wrapping them in protective layers as he handed them to those escaping into the light. Amongst the chaos, they found Peter, the young intern, frozen in fear near a flaming corner. Raelynn dashed toward him, her heart racing. "Peter, come on, we have to go," she urged, reaching out to grasp his arm. "I can't leave it," he cried, his eyes wide with terror. "The art will survive if we escape," Braxton thundered, emerging from behind with another piece cradled in his arms. "Get him out, Raelynn." With a frantic tug, she pulled Peter from his petrified stance, and together they tore down the gallery's corridor as the flames roared hungrily behind them. Just as they neared the door, Raelynn glanced back, her gaze colliding with Braxton's. "Go," he yelled, his voice firm yet laced with an undercurrent of desperation. The swirling heat intensified as they pressed forward, the flickering light illuminating their expressions. Outside, they stumbled onto the emerald grass, gasping for breath, while the first responders arrived in a flurry of sirens and flashing lights. In the distance, the gallery loomed, both a sanctuary of artistry and a battleground against the chaos consuming it. "I won't let it go up like this." Raelynn grimaced, guilt swirling in her chest. "It's not just art, Raelynn," Braxton murmured, stepping closer, forcing her to meet his gaze amidst the turmoil. "It's a part of you." And in that moment, as the gallery burned, they stood at the threshold of their own unraveling truths. Scene 82, facing flames. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting vivid streaks of orange and purple across the sky, Raelynn Barrett stood transfixed, gazing at the last remnants of daylight spilling over the horizon of the exclusive island. She breathed in the salt-laden air as the scent of burning wood invaded her senses. "Raelynn," a frantic voice shouted, jolting her from her reverie. It was Braxton Vale, his face a mask of urgency as he emerged from the shadows of the nearby art installation. "We need to move, now." The chaos that erupted moments later sent adrenaline coursing through her veins. The gallery's carefully curated pieces were engulfed in flames, orange tongues licking hungrily at the air. In that instant, her thoughts coalesced into a singular realization. This island held her past, but it could also be the death of her future. Braxton lunged toward her, his hand gripping her wrist. "Raelynn, follow me." They sprinted together toward the emergency exits, dodging falling debris and thick smoke curling around them like serpents. The world was a cacophony of alarms blaring, people shouting, and the ominous crackle of fire consuming everything in its path. As they reached the smoky threshold of the gallery, an explosion rippled through the air, sending a shockwave that knocked them both to the ground. Raelynn caught her breath, the metallic taste of fear settling in her mouth. "Are you all right?" Braxton's voice softened as he quickly assessed her, his dark eyes searching hers. "I'm fine," she murmured, though her heart raced wildly. "We have to." Before she could finish, an anguished cry pierced the tumult. It was one of the art benefactors, a man in his 60s, trapped underneath a fallen beam. Raelynn saw his hand flail desperately, but the smoke thickened, making the room feel narrow, constricting. "They need help," she shouted, pointing toward the man, her voice hoarse but resolute. Braxton hesitated, glancing back at her, torn between the urgency to escape and the growing sense of duty. "Stay here," he commanded, his tone firm yet protective. "No," Raelynn cried out, the panic enveloping her. "You can't leave him. We can't just abandon him." Braxton met her gaze, and in that moment the world around them seemed to fade. The weight of unspoken words hung between them, heavy and laden. "I won't let anyone else die on my watch," he declared, and with a fierce determination he surged forward, turning toward the cries for help. Raylan's heart pounded as she followed him. She could see flames licking at the edges of the art installation, consuming it inch by inch. Within the smoky haze, the man's face was a mixture of fear and despair. Braxton reached down, bracing himself against the collapse and somehow merging strength with urgency. "Grab my hand," he shouted. The air was thick with dread, and time slowed as Raelynn instinctively stepped forward to support him. With a heave, Braxton pulled the man free, adrenaline surging between them like electricity. "Get him out," Raelynn instructed, the authority in her voice unmatched by the chaos surrounding them. But as they began to retreat, a wooden beam crashed to the ground nearby, splintering into pieces and sending both men sprawling backward. "Move," she shouted, her heart racing for a different reason now. She was no longer just an observer. She was part of this, bound by fear and a fierce love. It felt surreal, a moment suspended in time. As Braxton and the man struggled to their feet, Raelynn caught his gaze once more. Between the chaos, they found a stillness, an unspoken connection solidified through shared peril. "I don't just want to survive this," Raelynn confessed, her voice trembling but determined. "I want to live, with you." The confession lingered in the air between them, heavy yet freeing. Braxton paused, stunned, as the weight of her words settled in. "Then we fight for that, Raelynn," he replied, fierce conviction igniting in his tone. And together they pushed through the smoke, emerging from the disaster, their hands intertwined, a promise forged amidst the flames. Scene 83, Wounded Love. Raelynn stood amidst the treasures of the gallery, her heart racing with a mix of dread and irresistible warmth. The crackling of the flames had nearly engulfed the vibrant artwork that once shimmered with life. Braxton's fierce presence fought back the looming inferno, blocking her from the consuming heat. The air was thick with smoke and fear, the scent of charred wood mingling with the fragrance of jasmine from her skin, creating an intoxicating blend. After the chaos, the world felt too quiet, as if the island itself were holding its breath. Raelynn knelt beside Braxton, who leaned back against the ornate wooden frame of a painting, his breathing labored. The glow of the flames faded, leaving the room awash in a warm, flickering light that danced over his wounds, showcasing the raw beauty beneath the pain. His hands, strong and steady, moved gingerly over burnt fabric, revealing singed skin. "Braxton," she whispered, her voice trembling like the last echoes of the fire. "You shouldn't have done that." His dark eyes met hers, a storm of emotions swirling within. "I wouldn't let you be swallowed whole by that fire. Not now. Not ever." The weight of his words hung between them, saturated with an intimacy neither had anticipated. Raylan's nerves tingled in the charged silence. Braxton, raw and vulnerable, gazed up at her, his usual bravado eclipsed by an undeniable vulnerability. He tapped the pocket of his jacket, a careful movement that invoked a flicker of curiosity in Raylan's heart. "What?" she started, but he interrupted her, his voice a soft rumble, filled with unexpected tenderness. "I kept something." He retrieved a small, worn photograph, edges frayed, and handed it to her. "It's you." Raylan's fingers brushed against his as she accepted the relic of his intent. Her breath hitched as she studied the image. It captured a moment, her eyes bright, smiling, utterly unaware of the storm that would follow. "You've held on to this?" Her voice nearly faltered. The photograph connected the past and the uncertain present, locking them into a shared fate. "Every time I doubted us." I looked at it. The transparent honesty in his admission sent a shiver through her. "So you've known Braxton? You've seen my shadow?" She sought his gaze, but the corners of his mouth lifted faintly, a blend of pain and resolve. "Every shadow has its story, no matter how dark." His voice was gravelly, but there was a sweetness threading through. "But I want to be a part of yours." As the shadows tangled in the corners of the room, Raelynn leaned closer, her pulse quickening as she studied the fire-lit hues in his eyes. "What if those shadows are more than you can bear?" Her words slipped out, a challenge and a plea all at once. "Then we'll bear them together," he replied fiercely, like the determined protector she had always seen in him, the man whose energy could light up the darkest nights. The warmth between them deepened, a palpable connection that rippled in the air. Raelynn felt the tension ease, their laughter now tinged with desperation, but more so with a yearning that could not be ignored. She placed her hand gently over his, grounding them both. "Promise me," she whispered, the weight of the world momentarily lifted. "Promise me we won't let it consume us." Braxton looked into her eyes, his expression solemn yet shimmering with hope.